The challenge comes with, as a man, as a husband, when you are protecting and providing this lifestyle for your family, one of the concerns that you have is that this person that's close to you, that you want to protect from all things, and you have this inner desire to expand your family, practice polygyny, well, this person is likely going to be hurt. There's love, there are emotions, there are things that are there. So how do you deal with that internally? I wasn't equipped for it.
Warning, viewer discretion is advised. The content, views, and educational material you are about to experience could challenge your belief, trigger strong emotions, and frankly, piss you off. This isn't for everyone. If you're not ready to confront new ideas, or if your feelings bruise easily, this might be the time to click away. Expect to be challenged, to think, and you might even want to scream at the screen. Proceed with caution, and remember, you chose to be here. Let's get it.
They authored the book titled Let's Talk Polygyny Uncensored. Wow, amazing. So welcome. Assalamu alaikum, Coach Nadir, Coach Fatima, and Coach Nyla. Thank you all so much for being here.
Alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
It's a pleasure to have all of you here. How did this happen? I've seen your videos on YouTube, and I just want to say how much I love and respect you all for sharing your story, number one, and for telling us that it's not easy, but that it can be done, and giving everyone a roadmap based upon your experiences. You've gone through a lot to get to where you are today. And I think I heard you say, we started from the bottom, now we're here, or something the other day. So, Coach Nadir, I know that you didn't tell Coach Fatima right away. So talk to us about that whole dynamic. And I know that, Coach Fatima, you didn't respond positively right away, but you came around. And man, I love how you came around and what you shared about that. So Coach Nadir, lead us into your, how it all came about. I mean, you don't have to give us all the details, but just in general, because I know you're used to telling your story.
Yeah, no problem. Again, definitely appreciate being invited here. So let's get right to it. First, just before I jump into that, I do want to make a very important distinction. And when it comes to polygyny, we have to remember a few different things. Polygyny is simply a form of marriage. Okay. And the only one who can speak on that so far as what the rules and requirements and things are Allah Ta'ala and his messenger, alayhi salatu wasalam. We are living in a time where Muslims tend to put more conditions and prerequisites and a number of different things that the Prophet ﷺ did not demonstrate and did not give to us. So we have to be very, very careful. And one of the things I'll just point out is that I disagree with these. We have to master monogamy first before practicing polygyny. We do have to become better spouses. We should be the best to our families. But the Prophet ﷺ did not say that, and it was not demonstrated amongst him nor his companions because polygyny already existed. And just like we should be working and striving to be better husbands and better wives in monogamous marriages, the fact is polygyny is still a form of marriage. And if Shaitan's number one goal is to break up this healthy family, is not part of the similar goal to prevent families from coming together. All right. And I see that happening when it comes to polygyny. So I'll talk about our origin story, or, at least my perspective of it. Right. First of all, this year, not this month, we celebrated 30 years of marriage, Coach Fatima and I. So that's, again, 30 years, more than my parents, grandparents, a lot of different stuff. But after 15 years, I chose to practice polygyny. Now, here's the thing. I was not looking for polygyny. I was open, you know what I'm saying? But I wasn't necessarily just searching for it. The challenge comes with, as a man, as a husband, when you are protecting and providing this lifestyle for your family, one of the concerns that you have is that this person that's close to you, that you want to protect from all things, and you have this inner desire to expand your family, practice polygyny, well, this person is likely going to be hurt. There's love, there are emotions, there are things that are there. So how do you deal with that internally? I wasn't equipped for it at all, not only because our community didn't really show the families that actually were practicing polygyny, that usually the most successful tend to usually be kind of quiet and keep people out of their business. And I understand why, right? But similarly, our imams, unfortunately, have failed us. Our teachers have failed us when it comes to teaching us about polygyny, not just the fiqh of polygyny, but the actual emotional resilience that a husband is going to need. So we had Coach Fatima and I, we spoke on polygyny prior to, so far as talking about it, and it was a hot button. I was a young husband, she's a young wife, and I'm like, oh, this is not something to really go near. All right, so I already knew that was going to be a hot button anyway, generally speaking. But what occurred is I chose to go ahead and get married, and Coach Nyla's Wakil had contacted me, and we had spoken, so on and so forth. And unfortunately, not being properly equipped, I decided to get married because Islam does not require your wife's permission or even necessarily knowledge. Now, is that best practice? No. And I'm telling you, because I did it, there's a lot of challenges and feelings of betrayal and trust and things like that you've already built up with your initial wife that can take a big hit. Similarly, it's not fair to an incoming wife where you're saying, all right, we want to practice polygyny and Islam is honorable and has all this stuff, but it's like, okay, I don't, I feel like maybe I'm in the shadows or whatnot. You're supposed to be protecting me as well. We're equal. There's no totem pole. She's not more important than me, and so on and so forth. There's no hierarchy, right? So that went on. I married her, and boom, I'm practicing polygyny, not knowing what to do, private ceremony, stuff like that. And time passed, like weeks, months passed before I told and spoke with Coach Fatima about it. So you can understand, as many of us know, sugar honey iced tea hit the fan. So it was all over the place.
Hard.
All right. It was all over the place. And I was at, a loss within myself, within both families, and try to kind of figure out the principles and the things that I was utilizing in business, how that worked inside my home versus only outside of the home, where I was making things happen. It was great. It was leading, growing home business and all of that. But inside the home, I was more passive, as in, okay, well, Islam doesn't require this. So instead of painting the vision, instead of taking the leadership, instead of being more assertive and confident in myself, which are masculine characteristics that attract women, that attracted Coach Fatima, that attracted Coach Nyla, in the home, I was too soft. Right. And that was problematic. And that lasted a few years until really kind of figured out how to actually lead, be more assertive, paint the vision, decide this is how I really wanted to look, and demonstrating that I could handle this thing. You know what I'm saying? Proving to both of them, all right, I can handle it. We build our trust up. You see I'm being fair. You see what the time is. And those types of things. So it took me time to develop it, but it was really ugly. It was ugly at first. Took some years, again, to really get through the mud, if you will. And then finally kind of come out the other end, several years later when we went ahead and decided to form outstanding personal relationships. But again, the main thing is I didn't have the clarity, the confidence, or really the courage to walk through the fire in advance, to have the hard conversations in order to try to crystallize what a vision is going to look like for the family, while at the same time not wrecking and breaking what I put together on some emotional stuff, So that was the major issue that took me a while to really get straight.
Thank you so much for sharing that, Coach Nadir. Before we go to our other guests, I just want to hear from your wives. I imagine, like any relationship, polygyny has its phases, like they say, there's the honeymoon phase and then all those phases, right? So, and you just alluded to that, some of that, Brother Nadir. How was it for you, Coach Fatima? When did you finally regain the trust or begin to trust in him again? And why did you stay? I've heard some of what you've said in some of your videos online, but I'd like for you to just share a little bit about how you was able to get over that hump and feeling betrayed, and how you've gotten to where you are today. And we'll come back to you again, but I just want to have you all speak a little bit right now before we go to our other guest, inshallah.
Well, briefly, what I did is I watched how he created a deeper relationship with Allah. And I knew once I saw, brothers say, oh, I want 2 wives and I want 4 and I want to, it sounds great, doesn't it? Till you're in it and it's actually in your life all the time. And you have the privilege of knowing everything about everyone and learning more about yourself and everyone. So what I watched in Coach Nadir was, what was his relationship with Allah looking like? And I saw him praying more. He always did since we've been Muslim. However, the depth of his relationship with Allah was, he was cultivating that in a way that I found very, I admired him. because I said, now this has gotten to be DEFCON Delta, and this is very serious. This is very serious. I've not seen him pray quite that much with that much intensity and frequency, and he was doing so much extra. And I said, now if his relationship is stronger with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, I said, Fatima, then you should be okay. And as far as trust goes, I gave myself permission to trust him again. Who's going to give it other than myself? Okay. Based off of his actions. Because you can talk all you want. That's that. And then here comes that dazzling speech can enter and all these things like that. However, it was more of how he was carrying himself as a man, as a husband, as a father, as a leader, as a brother, as a son. And because of polygyny, I just looked at it in less of a superficial way and not deal in this dunya versus thinking about Allah's akhirah. And I asked myself better questions instead of saying, this, this is never going to work. I said, well, how can it work?
Beautiful.
Right? So I had to look inward for a lot of this more than I did, judging everyone else. I said, okay, let's look inward and see what you need to work on now. Maybe this is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's way of calling you to do the same and deepen your relationship with him. Alhamdulillah. That's what it did for me.
Thank you. And truly, all of the work is internal work.
Yeah.
From everybody. And I know we're going to talk more about that later. Coach Nyla, how was it for you? Were you anxious, nervous? I guess you knew that he hadn't told her yet. And how was that for you? And when did you finally come around? How was it when he finally told her?
No, that wasn't necessarily the case. Like till later on or anything like that. So here's the thing, and I teach this and train this because you went through it, going through the fire on different aspects. A lot of focus does come on because people see the pain and the stresses and the hurt that can come towards the first wife. And the other part of the story, they don't see that as much, of the hurt, the fear, the anxiety, the trying to fit in, the not knowing how you're going to be received and accepted and these different things. Or is he going to take her side before he take yours? If she doesn't like you, will he kick you to the curb? Those different things happen. It happened to me. It happens to, others that coach. So those things, like you said, the internal work, and just like Coach Fatima said, the internal work, yes, is, loving yourself, knowing what you bring to the family dynamic, being confident in that. So that's kind of the thing when it comes to teaching women, the femininity and the confidence and the connection, those type of things is important, all around the board. So yeah, it wasn't the easiest thing. And I would say I was naive. At first I was like, what? It was like, oh, you were so naive. I said the naivety came from my understanding of what polygyny was or what polygyny is, and that in Islam that we like polygyny is allowed. So that being said, it's like, okay, well, polygyny is allowed. It makes sense. Okay, I'm not coming in to destroy anything, wreck anything or anything like that. So it's like, okay, this did not turn out the way I thought in my head, because I thought I was going to gain a sister. This is, the kids, all the other stuff. I had all this delusions of grandeur in my head to begin with. And it didn't happen that way. It didn't come out that way. And after a while, it caused some issues. It caused some issues with how I felt about my marriage, to the point where I was like, okay, maybe I should just walk away from it so they could be happy again, so it was so I don't be the problem, that type of thing. And, alhamdulillah, with reaching out, being nervous, stating that, look, whenever you're ready, we should talk, or I would like to talk before my nerves get the best of me and these other things. And also being confident enough to speak the way I felt, to our husband. Because if you don't let them know, if you don't have that proper communication, how would they know? They can see certain things, or the energy is a certain way, but that's just speculation. You don't know what it is unless you communicate properly with that. So being able to do that, I had to do that work within myself to say, you know what? You are not the outsider. You are not an outcast. You do belong. And get that confidence of speak to the people in this family and be able to bond. Whenever they're ready. But you got to work on you. You can't make anybody do what you want them to do, but you can make you do what you need to do. So that's pretty much how that happened to begin with. And, we just continue to do the work and start teaching other people how to do the same.
Wonderful.
I'm a polygamous man. Yeah, I said it.
And I hated it when I found out.
Well, I kind of liked it when I found out.
Was it easy? Not at all. However, if you want to practice polygamy without destroying your family,
Make sure you grab our book.
It's been called The Blueprint to Polygamy.
The link is in the description.
or comment
Uncensored.
and we'll send you the link.